The Saints trade up to get their pass rusher, but it came at a cost. Was it worth it? Mike Detillier analyzes the team's draft class. Plus, the Warriors dominated the Pelicans in Game 1. So what has to happen for New Orleans to steal Game 2 Tuesday? And a past winner climbs the leaderboard to win the Zurich Classic once again. And the crowds at the TPC were huge all week. Midway through round 1 of the NFL draft, we learned exactly what Sean Payton thinks about his team. He pushed all his chips in, trading 3 picks to get 1. I'm Doug Mouton. Welcome to 4th Down on 4. The Saints got the one thing they needed most, a pass rushing end to play opposite Cam Jordan. No doubt they are 100% in win now mode.
The New Orleans Saints select Marcus Davenport.
The newest Saint is Marcus Davenport from Texas San Antonio. Sean Payton says physically he's the prototype.
He is someone who's real explosive and got great makeup, and we're excited about.
They're taking a chance on me, and I can't wait to prove them right.
And Davenport has deep New Orleans roots. His grandfather coached the track team at Southern. His dad grew up in Gentilly. Davenport's family couldn't be happier.
It's crazy because, how to say, I haven't really seen my dad have that much emotion. So that's amazing. And to be a Saint, it's just crazy.
Sean Payton raved about Davenport's smarts and desire.
There's a passion you feel like when you're around him about the game, and it's really, we're searching for people that, that are in the passion business.
Davenport wound up at Texas San Antonio because physically he was a late bloomer, and Sean Payton decided to use this year's first-round pick and next year's first-round pick because he clearly believes his team is close. Payton admitted Davenport fits a must position, which he has not been able to effectively fill in free agency.
One of the offseason targets was, a pressure player. We can't find those guys when the season's over with and we start free agency. They're generally players you have to draft.
Davenport is a big piece, and then the Saints opted not to trade anymore. So when their pick came up late in round 3, Payton said they weren't necessarily looking for a wideout, but the value with Traquan Smith was just too good to pass up.
From Central Florida, and there is our first score of the game.
Well, he's physical, he's big, he's a guy that blocks. I like his size, I like his strong hands. I think he's very competitive.
Payton said he was looking for depth in the secondary, so the Saints took Boston College cornerback Cameron Moore, and then this guy, Wisconsin safety Natrell Jamerson. Then he looked closer to home to find depth at offensive line.
Right when everybody found out I got drafted by the Saints, I think like half the party went home and put on more Saints gear, and it's a special time.
Who dat? Who dat?
Will Clapp's draft party turned into a massive celebration after he became a Saint. And Clapp, along with Florida State's Rick Leonard, fill a need along the line for a team that's clearly all in to win now.
Obviously, they drafted to win right away, and I'm excited to be a part of that. I remember the last time they won a Super Bowl, I was in 8th grade. I ran down the street in my boxers, and it was a celebration in New Orleans. I mean, everybody here remembers it, and it was a great time in New Orleans, and I'm trying to help the Saints get back there.
All right, joined by the draft guru, Mike Detillier. All right, let's start with Davenport. Sean Payton admitted that he's raw. How much do you think he can help this year?
My thing is, I'm looking for him. If he can get 6 sacks this year, that's what I'm looking for. But for him to steadily improve, and by November, when you're making that playoff run, I want him to be in gear, ready to roll. Nothing wins games more in the fourth quarter than a pass rush. And how many times have we sat here for the last 4 years, and your question was the biggest need on this football team? And my answer to you is a defensive end opposite Cam Jordan. It's bold, it's aggressive, it's risky. But you know what? I'm this close. I got to get the guy to close the deal. Come January, I want him ready to roll. And I got him and Jordan, Rankins in the middle. Now I'm rolling to try to get that pass rush, and come playoff time, that helps me seal a deal and win a game.
Yeah, and Sean Payton said it. I thought the biggest window into his soul after taking Davenport was he said, these are guys that just aren't out there in free agency. You have to get them in the draft. And he said that like a guy who's had the unfortunate experience of trying to find him in free agency and not being able to.
No, they're
right?
not there. Because if I have one, I'm signing him up. And two is 7-on-7 has changed the rules now. Where a 6'3" guy, he's playing wide receiver and tight end today. He don't want to play as a pass rush defensive end. It has changed college football where you can't find them. And what's the feeder system to the NFL? College football. So you got to make a risky move. And this is the risky move by the Saints to do it. And if I'm in his shoes, I do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. Look, what I like about this move is that Super Bowl chances are so rare. You and I both grew up around here. We know how rare a chance is at a Super Bowl. This team, I think, you think is, Sean Payton clearly thinks, is this close. And if this is the guy to put you over the hump, then yes, I say it's worth it to give up next year's number one. It sounds like you agree with that,
yeah,
right?
You know, my thing is, I was doing draft talk in October, you know, prior to Peyton. So, you know, you get this close. But you got to also keep up with the Joneses in the NFL, in what you see in Philly, in Minnesota, in Dallas, in Los Angeles. What are they all trying to do? Get better on defense, pressure people. And how did the Eagles win? Yes, Carson Wentz, MVP for 3 quarters of the season, goes down to the knee injury. How did they win it down the road with a backup quarterback? They had top flight people up front along the offensive line, the best talent and depth along the defensive line.
Okay, overall, do you think the Saints did enough? They needed depth on the offensive line. They got some later in the draft. They wanted depth in the secondary. They got some later in the draft. Overall, did you like the Saints draft? What would you say?
I think there was some risky picks in the middle. That's, to me, these developmental guys. No, you got off the chart here. You were picking guys who were productive in college. You got a 1-year starter at Florida State, okay? You know, I think the world of Boston Scott. You and I have talked about him. He's awfully small for that running back position. Right now, you can't compare. It's not even close, 2017 to 2018.
They didn't have the picks.
They didn't have the picks early like you had in 2017. My thing is, this team still needs today a tight end, and I don't care if he's a rent player. And so that means Antonio Gates, I'm on the phone with you as soon as you cut loose, because I think if I can piece him and Watson together, 2 for 1 gives me a guy for a year. And I still need some depth at defensive tackle, because that's a high collision area where I'm going to need some depth, and I don't want to try to be finding one in November.
Right, still some work to do. Mike Detillier, hey, great stuff as always. We are back with more 4th Down on 4 in a minute. Coming up, we'll head to Oakland, where the Warriors overwhelm the Pelicans in Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals. Does New Orleans have a shot in this series? And what do they need to do so that Saturday night isn't repeated on Tuesday? And later, we'll head out to the TPC, where the Zurich Classic tried some new elements, including walk-up music on the first tee. Game 2 is Tuesday night for New Orleans. Game 1 was a disaster. Maybe the long layoff after round 1 hurt. Maybe a bounce back in Game 2 is coming. Ricardo LeCompte reports from Oakland.
With music royalty sitting courtside, the Golden State Warriors proved they still rule the NBA kingdom. A 13th straight home playoff win after a 22-point rout to open the Western Conference semifinals. This coming against a New Orleans team fresh off a sweep in the opening round.
We've been playing great basketball, and I'm not so sure if the week off helped us, really. I thought we lost a little bit of our rhythm. We missed some shots that we've been making the last 2 weeks. They came at us hard, and we didn't respond to it real well.
The Pels and Warriors jousted for the lead early on. New Orleans tied the game at 39 early in the second quarter. Then the Warriors struck hard, hitting the Pels with one of their trademark flurries. This one, a 37-16 run to close the half.
how could I not enjoy that? You know, that's an amazing run in that 12 minutes. Combination of offense and defense. I think we had 1 turnover in the whole quarter and 10 assists, and the ball was moving, but it all started with our defense. And Draymond is always in the center of our defensive effort.
Draymond Green recorded a triple-double in Game 1. Finals MVP Kevin Durant notched a double-double, 26 and 13. And Klay Thompson torched the Pels with a game-high 27 points.
We ain't gonna have some defense, and what happened in the second quarter is inexcusable. I can't blame it on a week off of rest. It's a lack of communication and not being disciplined. So if we can clean it up, I think we'll be fine.
This is not anything new. It's not anything new to the league, really. You know, they've done it. You know, they've done it before, and that's why I say you got to be very disciplined in what you do against these guys. They're very smart.
Meanwhile, the Pels played their normal up-tempo pace, but the third highest scoring team in the league had no answer for Golden State's big run. Anthony Davis finished with the team high 21, but shot 9 of 20 from the field. And Drew Holiday was in foul trouble and only scored 11. The Warriors said they love the pace played in this series, and New Orleans won't shy away from running it.
Clay looked at me there on the bench and said, "Man, Draymond, I got more tired tonight than I did in any game against the Spurs."
Yeah.
You know, that just kind of sums it up. You know, it's a completely different tempo. You know, they're really pushing the ball, like he said, on makes and misses. Nonetheless, as long as we're getting back in transition and not giving up easy stuff, I think that pace plays into our hands.
Us not making shots, you know, took over our defensive end, our defensive urgency. I think, obviously, if we make shots, I think we're a better defensive team, but we can't allow our offense to dictate our defense.
The confidence still remains with the Pels despite this Game 1 setback, but it's hard to ignore the fact that Golden State was able to go on these runs without Steph Curry in the lineup. Now, the All-Star guard is expected to return for Game 2 Tuesday night, a big boost for Golden State, and another challenge New Orleans must deal with as this series continues.
Of course, he adds a different dynamic to their team, but you know, we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing, you know, without the breakdowns. You know, we're going to be more locked in defensively, especially with him, you know, probably coming back. But, you know, for us, you know, like it's all about pride.
Pride, showing this playoff march is no fluke and that they can hang with the kings of the league. The Pels will try to storm the castle in Game 2 Tuesday night. In Oakland, Ricardo Lecomte, 4th down on 4.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. Yeah, changing your offensive approach at this point just doesn't seem to make sense. Here's the next 3. Late Tuesday night in Oakland. Then they come back to New Orleans. Game 3 Friday night at 7. Game 4 Sunday at 3:30. Let's hope there's a Game 5. Back to Oakland now. Ricardo got some analysis today from the Advocate, Scott Kushner.
All right, Doug, joining me now is Scott Kushner over at The Advocate, and we're going to kind of break down Game 1. And let's start with that second quarter, which, of course, was the turning point in this game. As you saw that second quarter unfold, what probably told you that, hey, you know what, the Pels may be in trouble as the series continues?
The fact that they could not get to the free throw line and the fact that they kept sending Golden State to the free throw line. This wasn't just a barrage of really contested shots going down, which sometimes the Warriors can do that as well, but this was pretty systematic, that it was just a total breakdown on both ends, and that was troublesome. They kept calling timeouts. There was nothing now that Alvin Gentry could do, and I think he basically said it today. He's like, we tried everything, nothing worked, and so we'll see how they can adjust going forward, but they're going to do that. I mean, Golden State's going to make those runs. There's a reason that they are the best team in the NBA and have been for 3 years. So it's a matter of whether or not you can bounce back from it and make your own runs, and that's probably the most concerning is they didn't do that.
Yeah, we talk about the runs, and we talk about Golden State. They love to push the pace. This is what the Pelicans want to do, too. They want to keep the pace, and after Game 1, Alvin Gentry said, we're not changing our game plan. We're going to continue to push the ball. We're going to continue playing with that up-tempo pace. I ask you this. That's Golden State's game, too. So if you're working into their wheelhouse, is that kind of troublesome that you want to keep that same game plan against them? And if so, what can they do better to kind of almost outplay their ball?
it's a really tough conundrum that they're in right now, and you saw it kind of unfold last night, which is all week we've been asking Alvin Gentry and Rondo and everybody going like, well, you're going to play fast. They love to play. And Steve Kerr flat out said, he goes, our guys love to play this way. So do you really want to play in a style they love to play in? And the question is, do they have another style? Do the Pelicans have another pitch they can throw? And I don't think they do. I mean, this is the only way they can do this now. If they had DeMarcus Cousins maybe healthy, then you could switch something up. But basically, the Pelicans are a fastball pitcher going up against a fastball hitter. This is what the game is going to be. You either blow it by him or you don't. And last night, they most certainly did not.
So going from game 1 to game 2, which Pelicans player needs to play better for them to have success moving forward?
They got to find a way to get Jrue Holiday going. He mentioned today, he was pretty upbeat and seemed to be in a good mood, but he basically said they missed a ton of shots that he made in the first round, which is accurate. They had decent enough looks. He didn't get a ton of them, but he had decent enough looks, and he missed a lot, and that is really troubling for them. He has to score 25.
Yeah, he was in foul trouble, only scored 11 points in game 1. So moving along to game 2, I know it just sounds like it's gloom and doom for the Pels, like they have no chance, but it's kind of funny. They take game 2, and everything's kind of righted because they did what they needed to do, steal a game here. So what do the Pelicans need to do to try to steal a game here for game 2?
Your guess is as good as mine. There's obviously they do what they did here 3 weeks ago. I mean, shoot the lights out and play defense and hope Steph Curry is rusty coming back. I mean, it's a basketball game. Things can happen, but based on any evidence we saw last night, there is no way to take away from that and say, oh, just tweak this here or there and then you're good. But there's obviously always a chance. And if they could win, obviously, game 2, then all of this really is moot, and game 1 is very quickly forgotten.
That's exactly right, and that's the beauty of basketball. You never know what's going to happen until you actually go between these lines and see what happens. So we'll see what they can do game 2 Tuesday night. Scott, appreciate it. Doug, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. Good stuff. Still ahead, Billy Horschel wins the Zurich Classic for the second time during a week where huge crowds poured out to the TPC, and those crowds got to see golfers use walk-up music on the first tee. That and more when we come back. Adding to the fun of the team format at the Zurich Classic this year, walk-up music. The teams pick their own music to start their round this weekend.
Just another addition to the Zurich Classic that guys want to come play here now.
Please welcome current Masters champion, Patrick Reed. Henrik Stenson.
John Peterson.
Well, we gotta have one. Let's make it funny. It's either that, Louisiana Saturday Night, or Hakuna Matata.
Yes, I want to be in that number.
That was a fun addition, and this year the Zurich Classic got a repeat champion. Billy Horschel and Scott Piercy played bogey-free golf Sunday and made a rapid run up the leaderboard. It's alternate shot in round 4, so the scores are not great. But this Horschel gem out of the bunker on 11 led to a birdie. Horschel and Piercy picked up 5 birdies, 13 pars to win the Zurich Classic by 1 stroke. Piercy closed out for the win on 18, his 4th PGA win, Horschel's 5th, to cap a great weekend on the West Bank. Andrew Doak has more from the TPC Louisiana on the winners.
Heading into the final round, the 2017 runners-up Kevin Kisner and Scott Brown topped a leaderboard with 13 teams within 4 shots of the lead. And by the time all 5 teams made the turn, they were all within 2 shots of each other.
When I was first told that they switched the format, I was against that. I said, why would we do that? But when I thought more about it, I was like, you know what? That's actually really good because the better players, the better teams, obviously are going to rise on Sunday.
Billy Horschel and Scott Piercy started the day 3 strokes back of the lead. But down the stretch, they could see the chance at another PGA Tour win for them both.
It was somewhere on the backside, somewhere after 13, I said, the group we got to beat is a group that we're playing with.
After birdies on 10 and 11, they surged into first place. On the back nine this year, Kisner and Brown faded, while Horschel and Piercy held a one-stroke lead over their playing partners, Jason Duffner and Pat Perez, at 22 under, following their birdie at the 11th hole. Horschel and Piercy held on over the final 7 holes with 7 straight pars to take home the Zurich title. And it was how the two paired together that made all the difference.
The Zurich Classic is the only PGA Tour event that changes the way you play and gives you a tough decision of who you're going to play with. You can't just pick a friend. You have to think about how your games match and how your personalities will mesh. And for Scott Piercy and Billy Horschel, all of those categories are checked.
It was great to play with Scott. Our games match up very well. We are really good ball strikers, and we think the same way.
The team aspect was especially needed by Piercy on Sunday. He said he leaned on Horschel's knowledge tremendously. And from a hole-to-hole basis on an alternate shot final round, they were able to manage with each other whose tee shots worked best on certain holes and where they needed to leave the ball for it to be in their teammates' wheelhouse.
I put a lot of weight on Billy because of the certain shots that I didn't like, or that I have a hard time with visually.
It was the second win here at TPC Louisiana for the former Florida Gator Billy Horschel. When he was asked why he thinks LSU fans seem to make an exception to root for him despite his school, he said he doesn't know why, but he might have to look into some real estate here.
The win here, New Orleans is a great town. I love the city. I just feel at home here. Maybe I should look into buying a house here, but, what are the state income taxes? That's the other issue right there.
From the TPC Louisiana in Avondale, Andrew Doak, 4th Down on 4.
All right, good stuff, Andrew. The Zurich actually got 4 days of beautiful weather for a change. They got a renewed commitment from their sponsor, too. Zurich signed a new deal to put its name on the New Orleans golf event through 2026. And the fan support this weekend was through the roof.
This year with the team format, the great field, obviously the wonderful weather, which sometimes is a topic of conversation, but certainly has not been this week. And it's made for an absolutely incredible week. And we are extremely excited about the future.
It was a great week on the West Bank. We're back with more 4th Down on 4 in a minute. The Pelicans play at Golden State Tuesday. Games 3 and 4 come here to New Orleans. I said 3:30 earlier. Game 4 is 2:30 Sunday afternoon. For Ricardo LeCompte, Andrew Doak, producer Danny Rockwell, photographer Adam Nay, and all of us here at Eyewitness Sports, I'm Doug Mouton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on 4th Down on 4.